Welcome to GitHub Universe. Thank you so much for coming. We have a lot of exciting stuff for you today, so let's just dive right in. Now, you're going to be hearing about a lot of the same topics over the next few days, so while I'm out here, I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about something that you're not going to hear a lot about this week. It's GitHub. I'm just kidding. But this is a very exciting time for us. Next month in October marks the 9-year anniversary of the very first commit to GitHub. When we started working on the website. 9 years. Did everyone know that? That's remarkable, isn't it? And throughout this 9-year journey, we've seen lots of different things, and we get lots of questions. And one of my favorite questions that people ask me is, Chris, where did you get the idea for GitHub? Which is super awkward, because there were like 4 co-founders. I'm like, well, just kind of a team, and we worked together, but I thought about this question a lot. And what is the idea for GitHub? What does that actually mean? To different people, GitHub is a lot of different things. It's a philosophy, it's a way of working, it's a company, it's an event, it's some weird website that doesn't work when you just want to turn in your homework. But I think as people, as humans, we love these eureka moments. We love disruption. We love the big idea, the big light bulb that goes off. We think about Isaac Newton. He sees an apple, and boom, he invents gravity, or something like that. We think about Henry Ford. He probably is in his workshop, tinkers, invents the Model T, boom, automobiles, right? Some web developers trying to make it easier to use Git, boom, social coding. But I think all of us involved in software know that the reality is a little bit more different than that. Progress really comes from evolution, not from disruption. The market, us, we may feel the effects of disruption from something new. But to those involved, it feels a lot more like progress, like a linear progression, like evolution. Isaac Newton, if he ever did see an apple fall, he was already retired. He'd spent his whole life inventing calculus, studying the world, thinking, asking questions. And so the apple, it was just sort of the cherry on top, to use a weird fruit metaphor. And Henry Ford did create the Model T with the Ford Motor Company, but that was their 8th car. Like, did you ever wonder why it's not called the Model A? Because there already was a Model A, and there was a Model B, and there was a Model C. That was their 8th car. Ford Motor Company, that was his 3rd company. The first one he bailed on, took his name with him, and they ended up renaming it Cadillac. So a lot of these ideas are not light bulbs that go off, but progress that has been built and built and built over a lifetime, over generations, over all evolution. GitHub, if I think about the idea for it, it wasn't forking. We didn't add forking for 3 months after we started working on it. It wasn't pull requests, because pull requests that we know, they didn't exist until years after we launched it. So what is the idea for GitHub? I think there's a couple, actually. And it really boils down to people and tools. One of the things that we did when we started GitHub is we said, we're going to build this for developers. This is going to be the #1 thing we're doing. We're going to think about developers, selfishly ourselves. We're going to look at their workflows. We're not going to worry about anything except what can we build that's really great for developers. And the key insight that we had, if I may, I get laughed at when I say this, is that developers are people too. We looked at other applications and other user interfaces, and we said, how can we make a tool for developers that's great, that just gets out of your way? The other side of it is the tools. The tools are important. Tools are things that we use to talk, to advance slides, to share information, to build the world around us. And GitHub, we create tools for people. We think it's a very important part of what we do. But more than that, we evolve. We really believe in iteration. We believe in continuous improvement. And the 9 years I've been at GitHub, I've seen lots of progress, not just in the company, but in the community. And so one part of GitHub, the Flash, is, what if we made sharing Git repositories easier? But I think a bigger part of GitHub is building on those that came before us. We're nothing without Git. We're nothing without Linux. We're nothing without computers and compilers. GitHub owes everything to the Hoppers and the Lovelaces, to the Torvalds and the Turings of the world. And maybe even more so, we owe everything to you. GitHub, building on top of Git, on top of Linux, on top of web browsers, it's a web application that today none of us would use. But with the community, with your feedback, with your ideas, with your code, with everything, this is really what GitHub is about. It's way more than a website. It's way more than a company. It's really a community of people that are building the future of software together. And I think the best way to be thankful to those who came before us and those that have provided opportunities for us to be where we are today is to try to give that to the next generation. And that's what we're doing here this week. We're talking about not just the future, but the future of building software. How can we make it better for ourselves? How can we make it better for our colleagues? How can we make it better for our community? And how can we make it better for future communities? That's something that we're very interested in, and I really think the path forward is not this idea of a major disruption, but it's really embracing and augmenting what's already there, the way people have collaborated for thousands of years, bringing it into the digital age and unlocking it. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about today. But if there's one thing I'd like you to take away, it's this idea of continuous improvement. Right? GitHub, again, it's a 9-year journey. This is a light bulb. OK, this is the word that says updates. So we have a lot of stuff to share today. We have been on a continuous improvement journey of our own. And so I wanted to give you a quick update on some of the things that are happening in the GitHub community, and then share some new stuff that we think you might think is cool. So let's start with Electron. Does anyone use Electron? It's pretty incredible. So Electron is a platform for building desktop applications in web technologies. We released the 1.0 version of it in May, and it's going quite well. We're really, really happy with it. People are building all kinds of really amazing things with Electron. Pixate, which just got bought by Google, is an application for building live prototypes of native and desktop applications. So more so than just mocking something up in Photoshop, you can actually see how it works, build in interactions. This is created in Electron. Hyperterm, if you've seen this recently, it's a terminal written in web technologies. You can extend it, you can hack on it, you can web inspect it if you want. It's really cool. Open source. OpenFin is pretty interesting as well. This is a platform built on top of Electron for the financial industry. So it's difficult to build applications and deploy applications for the financial industry because of security and regulations and things some of us don't have to deal with. OpenFin is a platform that makes this a lot easier. It creates a secure HTML5 container that you can then use to build web applications, native web applications on top of. And there's also some applications you may have heard of that are using Electron. There's Discog, which is I'm sure most gamers in the room know about. GitKraken, who is this amazing balloon monstrosity out front, actual monstrosity. Slack now ships on all 3 platforms using Electron. Visual Studio Code. Curse, which is for gamers. GitHub's own Atom, which we'll talk about in a minute. WordPress.com's native desktop application. Basecamp, the amazing smiley mountain. WebTorrent with streaming torrent abilities, SimpleNote, one of my favorite note-taking applications, and Facebook's Nuclide, which is an IDE for building applications on top of Electron. There are over 180 published apps available on the Electron website, and probably countless more being shipped as internal applications and bespoke things for internal consumption. And we've had over 2 million downloads of the Electron platform itself, which is pretty incredible. So it's super easy to get started. It includes Devtron, which is a fully featured debugger, inspector, tracer to help you figure out what's going on in your code. We have Spectron, which is a testing suite that you can use to write tests for these applications. There's an API demos application you can find in the App Store, which shows you what everything actually does. And there's a really great quick start documentation that you can use to get up and running right away. So check out Electron if you haven't. Maybe you can build your next native application for desktop very easily on top of it. We're super happy with the progress there. We hope you check it out. If you see anyone on the Electron team today, say hi to them. So our favorite application, because I think we're allowed to brag because this is a GitHub conference. Our favorite application built on Electron is called Atom. Atom is a text editor for, I don't want to say the modern age, I want to say the future. It's a text editor for the future. Right? Our idea for Atom was programmers like to build tools. They are people that build tools. We like to hack on the things that we use. We like to hack on workflows. This is very much where GitHub came from. But it's been so hard in the past to hack on your editor. There's Emacs, which is awesome. I used Emacs for a long time. I built a lot of my worst code that went into GitHub using Emacs. But Emacs uses Emacs Lisp, which, while fun, while awesome, is not something that most people are learning nowadays. Vim, another amazing editor that I used for a long time and love, has VimScript. And if any of you have used VimScript, I don't need to say anything else. So there are some really powerful editors that are difficult to modify, difficult to take control of. What we wanted to do with Atom was create an extremely powerful, extremely professional editor that anyone could use to write professional-grade applications, world-class applications, and they could hack. They could use the editor to hack itself in technologies that they already know and are familiar with. So Atom is an Electron application. It's built in HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It's really easy to get up and running with a package. But even if you don't want to do any of that, it's just a really great, free, open-source editor that you can use to write some code. This is what it looks like. Atom has been downloaded over 18 million times so far, which doesn't make any sense. There are 1.3 million active users of Atom in the past month. So over 1 million people are using this thing in the past 30 days. We have almost 5,000 open source packages published to the Atom website. So what are they? What are the plugins? Well, if you've used editors, you know there's syntax highlighters, there's linters, there's things that indent your Lisp code, because you're probably writing Lisp in Atom now. But there's also some really fun stuff. When you have the power of web technologies at your fingertips, there's a lot of interesting things you can do, a lot of prior art and ideas you can lean on. So Git Time Machine is a really awesome one. It lets you go back in time using Git, but the way it does it is by graphing the whole progression of the Git repository. So you can see the activity, you can jump back and forth, you can look at a file at any point in time really easily. It's like a Terminator one-way only time machine. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. There's also Beautify, which is pretty standard, but if you write HTML that looks like this, you can run Beautify on it, and it turns it into this. A little bit easier to read. It knows about all sorts of languages and can help you out. Markdown PDF, if you ever want to generate a PDF out of a Markdown document, you can do that right from inside Atom. And my personal favorite, this is how I wrote this talk. This is how I write all my code. It's Activate Power Mode. It just feels like you're doing something extremely important. This is all day. This is it. It just tanks my MacBook CPU. But it's worth it. So there's lots of fun stuff you can do with Atom. There's lots of really great packages. You should check it out. It's all web technologies. It's extremely approachable. The team is doing a really great job. And it's open source. All of Atom's internals are built in Atom. All the packages that are available are completely open source, so check it out. There's also a flight manual, a really great book that teaches you how to use Atom, the internals of Atom, how to write packages. It's super approachable, all available online for free. So we're really happy with Atom. There was just a new release a couple weeks ago, and we hope you'll check it out. So now let's talk about students. Most of us were students at one point, and we've been doing a lot to try to bring students into the future, into the world of development. When I was in college, allegedly, I had to torrent a lot of the software I wanted to use because it was super allegedly expensive. Now things are a little bit different. A couple years ago, we launched the Student Developer Pack, which any college or student can sign up for and get access to tons of professional developer tools absolutely free. So we have over 200,000 students that are using this, and they've signed up for over 1 million of these applications inside of this pack. So what are they? Things like AWS, things like Bitnami, Crowdflower, Datadog just joined us, Azure. All this is stuff that we use as professional developers. It's all available to students absolutely free. No alleged torrenting necessary. Travis CI, tons of great stuff on there, the Student Developer Pack. We also have an application we released last year called GitHub Classroom, which is really remarkable. We have over 4,000 CS classes right now being taught using GitHub. So there are tens of thousands of kids that are learning how, not all kids, sorry, but students that are learning how to program using GitHub. And what we've done is create an application that makes it easy for the professor or teacher to manage the assignments, to manage the class in a way that's totally transparent to the user. So you as a student are just using GitHub, but me as a teacher, I have some help managing it. It's an awesome application. It's called Classroom. You should check it out if you or someone you know is interested in teaching programming using GitHub, because it's a really great way to learn. We've also done some really great partnerships in the past year or so regarding education. A big one is Major League Hacking. We're huge fans of hackathons. We like to support them wherever we can. I've personally been involved in a number of hackathons. I've never won, but I'm still trying. There's always still time. But they're great. It's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to learn new technologies. I was recently in New Jersey at a hackathon, and it was a high school, and I was meeting some people that were there, and I was asking them, what did you come here to hack on? What is your project? And to my surprise, a lot of them said they don't know. They have no idea. They just came to learn. They just came to find a team. They just came to have some fun. And this is, I think, a big part of the ethos behind hackathons is some people want to go in and win, even though they've never done it. Other people want to go in and they just want to have fun. They just want to learn something. They just want to make new connections. Hackathons are a great way to do that, particularly if a school or a community doesn't have a lot of meetups or resources for someone to get involved in programming. So we're huge fans of Major League Hacking. We're also partnering with Udacity in the past year or so to help them on some of their nano degrees. This is one for front-end web developer. I know they have one now for how to create self-driving cars. But there's all sorts of ways we're trying to help people learn how to program, learn how to become GitHub users and builders of the future software online. And another way we're doing that is by partnering with Black Girls Code. So tonight, you've all been invited to the Big Bang. It's our after party. We're doing something a little bit different this year. We are opening this up to everyone. We love you all, but GitHub is a community, and we wanted to invite everyone in the local Bay Area community to come join us. We managed to book an amazing artist, Common, who will be playing at the party at the Masonic Center tonight, and all the proceeds are going to Black Girls Code. So we're really proud of this partnership. We're really proud of this organization. Thank you. But hold your applause. I can talk about Black Girls Code for a bit, but I'd rather you hear it straight from someone who knows a little bit more than me. So I'd like to bring out the founder of Black Girls Code, Kimberly Bryant.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I wanted to first start out by thanking Chris for that wonderful introduction. And also, I wanted to give a shout out and thanks to Nicole Sanchez and the entire GitHub team for their tremendous support of Black Girls Code. I guess I wanted to start out by, talking a little bit about this quote from Common, who hopefully everyone's going to hear tonight. He says in one of his songs, I found a purpose, YMC, inspire a young world to be greater than me. And as I was getting ready to come back on and sitting backstage, I have my notes here, of course, on my iPhone, and, a lot of prepared thoughts that I wanted to share with you. And then I got a text from a friend of mine who's somewhere in the audience, Abby Bobby. Where are you at, Abby? Edeline. Abby was my right-hand ace partner when we started this journey with Black Girls Code 4 years ago. And when she called, I was really unexpected. I didn't expect her to be here, but it took me right back to 4 years ago when we started on this journey with Black Girls Code. And the one word that stuck in my mind was this one word in this line: inspire. And the reason that hit me when Abby called, because I thought about our shared backgrounds. Like myself, Abby grew up in what many would consider an under-resourced community in Philadelphia. These Black and brown communities where most people forget about it, don't even think that those kids can't make it, they can't really do anything because we're not going to really invest money in them. Now, although I got a few years on Abby and age, and we won't say how many that is, I grew up in the same type of environment in the inner city of Memphis, which might even have been just a little bit of like that South Side Chicago neighborhood that Common grew up in. Kids of no promise, if you ask many of people around us. But yet we succeeded. So what we're doing with Black Girls Code is much like Common is saying in this one line. We're trying to inspire a young world to be better than me. Because when I graduated from Vanderbilt, it's quite interesting that there was a peak moment for women in computer science. When I graduated from Vanderbilt at the end of the 80s, about 30% of young women were receiving bachelor's degrees in computer science. This is a chart that shows today only 18% of women receive a bachelor's degrees in computer science. So I don't think it's any accident if you look to your left and you look to the right, probably there's not going to be anyone that identifies as female sitting next to you in this room today. But the sadder part about this is that when we look at women of color, the number falls off a virtual cliff. Only about 5% of African American women receive degrees in computer science. If we look at Latinas and Native American women, that number is even less. It's between 1% and 3%. So that's the very reason we started Black Girls Code. It was because we wanted to show the world that these girls can not only code, they could succeed and become the next generation of CEOs and technologists and really create a new world for themselves and their families. What we've done is to create a program which teaches girls ages 7 to 17 to become digital creators and not just consumers of technology. We teach them everything from web design to robotics, mobile app development to game design. We're really teaching these girls to take this tech industry by the horns and flip it, change it, make it their own, and create something new that will actually drive the industry forward. Our goal is to teach 1 million girls of color to code by the year 2040. 1 million girls to code by the year 2040, and to become what we like to call the Girl Scouts of technology. Now, it's funny that, when I was getting coffee this morning and was in the back and I was just, really kind of trying to get in the zone, I ran into another friend of mine who I met 4 years ago, actually 5 years ago, Scott, who now works at GitHub. But Scott was one of the very first people that helped us create this, what we like to call, movement of Black Girls Code. Because we started out at what I like to call, I don't even think humble is the right word to call it, because humble doesn't describe the scrappiness that it took to start an industry change process in a basement not too far from here with only 6 students. But Scott was one of those very first technologists that came in once we were trying to build a greater impact in the San Francisco Bay Area, and helped us teach these little black and brown girls how to create something from nothing, how to design ideas on a piece of paper and transfer that to a computer screen. And it was that type of commitment to giving back to the community which has enabled us to not only reach those 12 girls and see them expand and really be successful, but to reach 6,000 students to date in over 11 cities across the US and in 1 chapter in Johannesburg, South Africa. But what I really want to leave you with about Black Girls Code is what we are doing. This work, this transformational, this revolutionary work, is really about much more than coding. We believe that technology can be used as a catalyst for transformative social change. We believe that the tech industry can only fully realize its potential when there are more seats at the table for women and people of color. We believe that when we empower these girls who are natural change agents to utilize technology as a creative tool, we can lead to innovative solutions for a variety of social issues and improve the lives of these girls, their families, and indeed the entire world. So tonight, I want to invite you all to join us as we celebrate one of the world's greatest storytellers and lyrical geniuses. Then, tomorrow, when you wake up, I want to invite you to join Black Girls Code as we, in the words of Common, inspire a young world and the next generation to be better than us. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Amazing. I hope I see all you tonight at the Masonic Center. So that's a bit about what we're doing in education and what our partners are doing. Let's talk about GitHub Enterprise. So we are a business. I don't know if everyone knows this. GitHub is always been about people and tools, but one of the things I think we did right was at the very beginning, we looked at what does a developer do in their day? And a lot of developers, they go to work, they work at a company, maybe it's open source, chances are it's closed source, they use some tools, they give back. It's not this open source versus closed source world that we were brought up in, a lot of us. It's a lot more nuanced than that. It's really a developer world. And when we say GitHub Enterprise, don't be confused. We don't say GitHub closed source. Some of the biggest enterprises in the world are embracing open source today. The world is much more gray than it is black and white. There's no open source versus enterprise anymore. It's open source and enterprise. I think one of the ways that we've helped with that is by inviting you all into these companies, by saying that the community that's building open source is the same community that's building some of the best, greatest closed source applications in the world. So we very much see this as an and world and not an or world. So we have a product called GitHub Enterprise. It's an on-prem version of GitHub.com. You can download it. You can run it on your own servers. You can run it on a private cloud. And we've done some really exciting things with it over the past year that I want to share with you. The first is that people love these statistics. There's the Fortune 100. There's all these faceless companies. No, some of the biggest companies in the world, the Fortune 100, 44% of them are using GitHub Enterprise right now. And a huge amount of those are using GitHub.com to release open source and engage with the community, which we're super proud of. Some instances of GitHub Enterprise have over 25,000 people using them. So think about that. Open source is millions of people. There's thousands of people. We're used to these big numbers. But there are companies that within their own firewall have 25,000 people using the same platform. They're collaborating. They're sharing. They're opening up the company in a way that's never happened before. Sure, it might be internal now, but who knows? We see a lot of these companies that go from being entirely siloed to breaking down walls to sharing more code internally to working a lot better to contributing to open source. And we're super excited to work with some of the biggest companies in the world to implement GitHub Enterprise internally and help them open source. So what are people building with it? The DLR Institute of Robotics. They're building robots, which is kind of awesome. NASA, which I'm sure some of us have heard of, are building software for rovers to go to Mars on GitHub Enterprise. SAP, one of the biggest enterprise companies in the world, I'm going to keep using that word, enterprise, they're using GitHub all over the place internally. And startups like MailChimp, they've got a couple hundred people, but I think we still call that a startup at this point, are using GitHub Enterprise to unite all their development practices internally. So almost everything you use in a day, everything you do is being touched by software that's being built either on GitHub.com or GitHub Enterprise. Cars, groceries, games, sports, phones, banks, tractors, trailers, apps, maps, open source, closed source. Everything is being touched by software. This is the idea that software is eating the world. We get to see it through the open source community, through our customers, through the enterprise and GitHub.com. But I know all of us are seeing it in the world around us, and you're all making it happen. A long time ago, aeons and aeons, the only thing people really built with software was something to run on a computer. Now, that might still be true, but computers look so different today than they looked 20 years ago. And it's really quite amazing to think about what computers will look like in 10, 20, 30 years. So GitHub Enterprise has had a really big year. There's a lot of great stuff coming. We'll talk about a little of our enterprise stuff in a bit. But if you haven't already, check it out. It's pretty amazing. And some of the biggest companies in the world are using it to build software, sending pull requests, working the same way the open source community works. It's pretty unbelievable. So speaking of the open source community, there's just a couple things I wanted to share before we move on. Last year I was up here, and I was really proud to announce that every day, more or less, 1,000 people made their very first public pull request. And so imagine my excitement when this year it's up to 2,000. So double the engagement. These are new people. These are new people making their first pull request. It's super awesome. Similarly, last year, 5,000 people every single day made their very first public repository. And fingers crossed, let's see what the number is. It happened again. It doubled. 10,000 people every day are making their first public repository. These are all sorts of people. They're just, what are they making? Everything. Config files, little experiments, massive open source projects. The community is growing by leaps and bounds. More and more people are being involved in open source every day, coming from all walks of life, whether they're students, enterprise developers, or just hackers. So there's some really great open source on GitHub. I'm sure you've all used a bunch of it. I wanted to highlight some of my favorites. NASA is today working on their mission control terminal on GitHub in open source. You can check it out. There's a live demo of it running. It's pretty unbelievable. But there's also some old NASA stuff on there. The Apollo 11 guidance computer code has been posted. So check that out. There's some active pull requests, although I have no idea what's going to go on with that. The Crytek, the Cry engine, which I believe was behind Crysis, the game, is open source, available on GitHub. You can check that out. I dabbled with it last night. I made this. No, I didn't. This is on the demo website. But you can do some really amazing things with this gaming engine. And similar to Apollo, there's some kind of ancient gaming engines that are also available on GitHub. id Software has published the source code for the original Doom, not the 2016 version. So you can check out Carmack's genius in there. There's all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of enterprise software. There's a lot of open source toolkits. But there's way more than that. There's virtual reality frameworks available, security software, which is super important, data visualization libraries like chart.js, which if you're like me can make you look amazing because you're not very visually inclined, or D3, similarly. We use this all over the place at GitHub. Machine learning, amazing libraries like TensorFlow, which I think there's a talk about it later, either today or tomorrow, but you should check it out. There's some really amazing things going on in machine learning, all online in open source world. I hope no one from Microsoft is here. There's a lot of stuff about hacking Minecraft. You can run your own server and create mods for it. But there's also some really sort of life-changing and inspiring projects that are available. One of my favorites is called OptiKey. So basically, you can get a really cheap piece of hardware that watches your eyes. And OptiKey is the software that lets you type with your eyes. So if you have mobility problems, if you have problems with your hands, or any sort of a disability, this software, this open source software, can help you type. It can help people use a computer just like everyone, and not. It lowers barriers. So it's really amazing. It's being built in open source. There's tons of projects like this. If you're ever looking for something to hack on, if you're ever bored, if you ever want to get involved in open source, there's a bunch of JavaScript frameworks that are cool. There's a bunch of web frameworks that are cool. But there's some really amazing software like OptiKey that's really making a difference. So I would check out the GitHub showcases. Check out all the stuff that's going on there. There are some people doing really incredible things in the world, all in the open, and they need help. They need contributors. They need people like you. Open source isn't just about libraries that help us code better, as great as there are. There's a lot of people that are making a real difference in the world with it. So one of the other questions I get, besides how did you invent GitHub, was what is the most impressive thing you've seen? Or what's the new thing that's going on that's really surprising? And I think what they want me to say is, really, do you like Rust or do you like Go, or something like that. But there's something more interesting than the Hacker News programming languages that are getting more and more popular in the debates. It's that the government, which you may or may not have heard of, the government is actually one of the most innovative and progressive users of technology, not just in the world, but on GitHub. And I'm not making that up. The White House is on GitHub. They are actively changing policy around conversations happening on GitHub. There's a lot of really innovative stuff coming, not just out of the US government, but the UK government, governments all over the world. And so we have a very special guest for you today from the White House to talk a little bit about what they're doing with open source. I'd love to bring to the stage Alvand Salehi.
Hello, universe. I usually like to say hello, world, but universe has such a nicer ring to it, doesn't it? I want to say Chris Wanstrath has done an incredible job leading this organization. Let's give him another round of applause.
Oh,
nice job, buddy. So I'm Alvand Salehi. I'm a tech advisor at the White House. I work in the office of the Federal CIO, which is led by the one and only Tony Scott. And I'm here today really to celebrate with all of you. I'm here to celebrate the tremendous potential of open source software. I'm here to celebrate the brilliant minds that contribute to nonstop innovation every single day. That's all of you here in this room today. And I'm here to celebrate something very special, which is the fact that for the first time ever, last month, the White House released the first ever federal policy that actually advocates for open source software. But before I get into the details of that, I want to put up a picture of one of my role models. And I know sometimes everyone will say, oh man, some of these cheesy keynotes always put up pictures of people for inspiration, like Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, Chris Wanstrath. I got you. But indulge me for a second. I want to do the same thing today. And this individual is a young man who's had his fair share of trials and tribulations. You all know him, and he always emerges much stronger as a result. Probably guessed it by now. Sorry, it was actually really hard for me to get through that with a straight face. Bart Simpson, all jokes aside, we all love him, but what I really like is what he's written here on the chalkboard, and he's written it several times. I don't know if he got in trouble for it or not. Open source is good for me, and I will fully embrace it. Just by a quick show of hands, how many of you here in the audience have ever contributed to an open source repository? Okay, well done. For those of you watching at home, virtually every single person raised their hand, and I think that makes sense because you guys are at GitHub Universe. But that's also why this is such an exciting time, and it's why it's so exciting that we were able to achieve this incredible milestone for the federal government. No one really would think that the federal government in 2016 would be the ones to embrace open source software. But I'm very excited that last month we were finally able to release the federal source code policy. And one of the best things about this policy, in my mind, is the fact that people were engaged with this policy from the very start. We released a draft of this policy back in March for public comments, and we received some of the highest number of comments ever in history. And the reason is because we tried something different. For one of the first times, we actually used GitHub to power our public comments. And as a result, we got over 2,000 public comments on the actual policy. Take a look. This is a quick snapshot of some of the comments we're receiving. One of my personal favorites is the one on the top. That is pretty awesome. But the fact is that I don't even know if Chris envisioned GitHub 8 years ago being used to power public comments for a federal policy. GitHub is a tremendous vehicle, and objectively speaking, it helped us a lot in engaging with every single one of you. So let's talk about some stats that actually make this policy important and necessary. The federal government, every single year, engages in over 42,000 software transactions. What's the cost? A whopping $6 billion every single year spent on software. What's interesting is a number of those acquisitions in software are actually duplicative transactions, meaning that several agencies are paying for the same software multiple times. Needless to say, that's a very inefficient way to spend your hard-earned tax dollars. And quite frankly, it has to stop, and we're going to make sure that it stops now. So introducing government-wide code reuse. Now that this policy has been released, from this point forward, all software transactions for custom-developed government code must ensure that that code can be shared and reused across the entire federal government. That will reduce duplicative acquisitions, and it'll make sure that we save as much taxpayer dollars as possible. The second big win in this policy, and this is one that I think most of you will be very excited about, is actually releasing government code as open source. So, what does that mean? From this point forward, we're launching a 3-year pilot program that requires that at least 20% of all of the government's custom-developed code moving forward be released to the public as open source software. Now, I see some expressions here. A lot of you guys are excited. Some of you, rightly, are thinking, why 20%? Why don't you just open it all up? Well, if you go on GitHub's public comments, you'll see a lot of you guys actually voiced that question as well. And it's a good question. The answer is this. As you all know, the government is massive. And unfortunately, unlike a startup, we can't just get change overnight. This is a massive federal bureaucracy. It's going to take time. It's going to take resources. So getting something actually started is the biggest victory of all. And quite frankly, this 20% figure is just a starting point. It's by no means the ending point. Because we're going to do everything we can to make sure that every single federal agency has the resources that they need to open source as much software as possible, and more importantly, to open source it responsibly and effectively, so it's actually useful to all of you guys. In fact, several agencies are actually already open sourcing by default. and they're going to lead the way. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, 18F, which sits within the General Services Administration, these guys have open source by default policies, and they're going to be the ones that we look to actually set a really good example for the rest of the federal government. So some of you might be thinking, well, Alvin, what are some examples of open source software in government that actually would even be useful? Why do I care? Well, the White House, a while back, open sourced their We the People petition website, which is where you can petition the White House on really any single issue that you want. And if you haven't done so, I'd really encourage you to take advantage of it. But more importantly, all of the code for this is on GitHub. So anybody can fork this, they can modify the website itself, and they can go ahead and take it and create their own petition website if they want. Not bad, right? One of my favorite examples is analytics.usa.gov. This is a snapshot into web traffic that is taking place on government websites in real time. And this was actually created as a joint project by 18F and the US Digital Service at the White House. What's really cool about this one is you take a look, it's on GitHub, it's open sourced, but several state and local governments have already forked this, and they've forked the API that underlies and powers this data, and they've done it for their own governments. Take a look. We got the city of Philadelphia. They've used exactly the same code that powers analytics.usa.gov to do it for their own city. We got the city of Sacramento doing it, and many, many more. And I can't wait, now that this policy is in effect, to see what comes about as a result. So, we thought about this for a long time, a lot of lively debates within the government, outside the government, amongst yourselves. We planned, we finally were able to cross the finish line and release this policy. And now, it's time to execute. So, get ready for code.gov. That's right. What is code.gov? Code.gov is the primary implementation website that's actually going to come out of this policy. And it's going to be the one-stop shop for all of you guys to go ahead and be able to look at all of the custom-developed code from this point forward for the government. Now, this is a very interesting project because we're going to be building it in the open. I mean, it would be kind of ridiculous if we didn't, given our policy, right? But the reason that's important is because I want all of you guys to help us build this platform. We're going to launch this in the coming months, but what's really important is this is the people's code, which means that it's all of your code. And if you guys actually want to make an impact and give back to the country and be a part of this amazing movement that we're trying to actually have in government, this is your opportunity. We put the code up on GitHub. Chris, I hope that's OK with you. And we have a bunch of help wanted tags. We have requests for discussion. We have different asks for all of you guys and the brilliant minds around the country to help us build this. And quite frankly, when we launch in a couple months, I want to make sure that this is the best damn open source platform that the world has ever seen. What's even more important is, you guys can imagine, a lot of people questioned whether the federal government should actually open source its software. There are a lot of valid points on both sides, and we've made sure to address all of those in the policy. But what's really important to me and to our team and to the White House and to the entire federal government is to make sure that you guys help us ensure that all of the people who doubted us know that when the federal government decided to actually open source software, that decision was a good one. And that is completely up to you. Because quite frankly, folks, after all, like I've said before, this is your code. This is our code. This is the people's code. And I can't wait for all of us to work with each other to ensure that we unlock the tremendous potential of the nation's open source software. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Amazing. Who would have thought? Open source government. All right. So there's some numbers here, but I'm not really going to go through them. What I am going to say is that we are releasing something pretty cool. We're calling it the State of the Octoverse. You can check it out online. It goes into some details around the open source community, GitHub itself, where we're seeing growth, some of the cool stuff you all are doing. It should be available today. There's going to be some cool lists, like organizations with the most open source contributors. Microsoft is #1. It's amazing. What a time to be alive. Repositories with the most users actively reviewing code. Some familiar faces in there. Some great visualizations of the open source community and some of the biggest projects on it, as well as numbers, numbers, numbers. So check out the Octoverse. It's going to be available later today, and it gives you a good idea of what's going on in the open source community and with GitHub. All right. So I've waited a very long time for this next part. The past year or so of the company, we have been maniacally focused on continuously improving. And the reason is not a keynote, not a conference as great as this is. It's all of you. We want to build great things for you. We want to build things for builders and watch what you do with them. Because for 9 years, we've already been blown away. We've seen magic happen. We've seen the most creative ideas, more creative than we could have ever imagined, get built not just on top of the GitHub platform, but we've seen people build them together. We love connecting people all over the world, whether they're in companies or open source or students just writing their first line of code. You are the reason we're here. So I have a lot of exciting stuff to talk about, but actions speak louder than words, so let's get right to it. There's 3 main things I want to discuss today. And the first is integrations. So GitHub exists in an ecosystem of open source code, of other platforms, of other tools. We've got GitKraken, we've got Circle CI, we've got Travis, we've got a lot of amazing integrators that are here today. Check them out, talk to them. Heroku has a great booth. And today we're excited to announce some new stuff for you, the user, and for you, the integrator. Last year on the stage, we announced the integrations directory, where you could go and you could find all sorts of different applications that tie into GitHub. Right now, there's over 150 applications listed on the integrations directory, and over 700 OAuth applications in all that integrate with GitHub, which is pretty amazing. More every day. That's the number I just said. 60% of GitHub organizations have installed an integration. So people are actually using this stuff, which is really exciting. But we want even more people to use it. Some great examples are Apiary, which is an API design stack. You could check it out. I saw some hoodies earlier. Datadog just joined. They've got some really great graphing libraries and dashboards. And Terraform by HashiCorp is a really cool way to do infrastructure collaboratively. But what I want to talk about today is the integrations early access. So if you're interested, we've got some cool stuff for you. If you've used a GitHub integration in the past, there's been issues with permissions, with installing it. You have to give all or nothing. You're not sure exactly what you're giving away. It's been tough for organizations to administer who has control of what. That all goes away. We'd love for you to sign up for our early access because we've totally revamped integrations. We've made them easier than ever to install for users, for organization administrators, and for the integrators themselves. We'd be happy to let you in. We're already working with some of our partners on this. It's really quite exciting. And if you're building integrations, we've got something cool too. Facebook has this amazing technology called GraphQL. We're using it to build more and more of GitHub itself. And we're really excited to announce a GraphQL early access today as well. So we're going to be using the same technologies to build GitHub that you can use to build integrations on top of it. And these early accesses will be available to anyone who wants to sign up. And we've already got some partners building some really great stuff on it. So last year we launched the integrations directory. This year we're revamping it, and we're going to make integrations a whole lot better for you and your organizations. All right. So that's cool. Check that out today. The next thing we wanted to talk about are businesses. So we have an amazing GitHub Enterprise application, on-premise product that a lot of companies are using. But the future is about choice. It's about deploying to the cloud if you want, not managing your server, having complete control of your software and your code. It's up to you to decide how you want to deploy, the access that you want to grant, and how you want to run GitHub. We are fully embracing businesses on the cloud and on-premise, and we've got some cool new stuff today that's just the start of where we're going to go. The first is, well, this is some of the stuff we've rolled out recently. This is all cool. Organization invites, you may have seen some of these. But the first thing we're going to release now is two-factor authentication requirement. So you, as an administrator running an organization, you can make sure that everyone who has access to your source code in the cloud is totally secure. They have not just one, but 2 factors of authentication. This has always been available for on-prem, but we're bringing a lot of these features to github.com because we want to give you the choice of where you want to deploy it, whether you're a small startup or the biggest enterprise in the world. And coming early next year, we're going to be launching SAML on github.com. So easier ways to log into GitHub, to authenticate, to manage tons of users. This is standard stuff that a lot of companies have. We're really excited to bring it to github.com to have it match with our enterprise on-prem product as well. So look for 2FA, it's coming soon, and SAML coming early next year if you want to get your business up and running on github.com. So then the third thing I wanted to announce today, something that I hope everyone here can use. It's all about workflow. So GitHub's about people, it's about tools, it's about workflows, people using tools, a lot of those words. And we've launched some cool stuff in the past year regarding issues and workflows. We've got new milestones, you can drag and drop and reorder things. We've launched issue templates, emoji reactions. People have already given over 1 million thumbs up emojis on GitHub. Multiple assignees for issues. A lot of really great improvements to issues itself. Saved replies. I'm sure you're using a lot of this already. Well, today, we're really excited to launch what's probably the biggest change or biggest addition to issues that we've launched maybe ever. And a lot of you have been struggling, I think, to manage a project on GitHub. There are lots of great add-ons and integrations, some of our favorite partners that make this really easy, but sometimes you just want to have just the basics. Sometimes you just want to manage a project in GitHub, organize your thoughts, sort of collect them, and work easier with other people. And an issue tracker just isn't enough. So we're rolling out projects on GitHub, which include boards and cards. They're going to start inside of a repository, and the future is really up to you. So you can add columns, you can rename them, you can drag and drop them. It's all how you want to use them. And we're going to be partnering with our integrators to make sure that we can do a lot of the heavy lifting for them, and they'll provide the best workflows and best add-ons for you. So GitHub projects are coming out soon. So there's notes and cards and all sorts of good stuff. So those are 3 of the big things that we're really excited about right now. And to go, hold on a second. OK, actually, there's one more thing. So we're really excited about businesses, and we're really excited about our integrators and projects. We're already using projects a lot. One of the things that we've been using projects for is to think about the future of this feature on GitHub called pull requests. So pull requests, as I said, weren't there at the beginning, but they've become quite core to the way that people use GitHub. And really, the essence of pull requests are collaboration. Pull requests are a great way to talk about code, to try out ideas, to give commentary. But they're not a great way to review code. So we've tried to make this a little bit better over the past year. We've added collaborative forks. So now in an open source community, if someone sends a pull request to you, they can give you permission to edit the code right there. We've added things like protected branches and GBG, so you can actually know who's writing the commit and have a great sense of security around it. We've added pull request templates, all sorts of new stuff to it. But what's still lacking is a real sort of built-in workflow for reviewing and collaborating on code in a way that you know is safe and secure. Some of the biggest companies and open source projects in the world have very great pull request code review workflows, but GitHub, the tool, doesn't support them. Well, we're changing that today, and we're releasing code review on GitHub, the biggest change we've ever made to pull requests. I want to show you some of the cool stuff on it. One thing is you can leave reviews. You can say, specifically on a line, you can talk about what's good, what's bad, what you want to change. You can submit a review as an entire body of work, a entire unit. You can say, I approve this change, I don't approve this, here are my thoughts. No more 100 emails being shot to you. Instead, you can do all the review at once. You can use multiple threads on the same line. So there's tons of different conversations can happen around the same piece of code, all for different reasons. One about the styling, one about the data, one about the testing. And of course, there's emoji reactions and all sorts of things that you've come to know and love from GitHub, including Markdown, built right in. Code reviews are fully integrated into the merge button, and so you can have a review block a merge, you can just use it to talk, you can have it built right into your CI process, and you can know who reviewed what, when, go back in time, look at all the history of the discussion. So code review is going to be available on GitHub. It's going to bring professional-grade code review to every open source project in the world, every student who's learning to code, and every developer in an enterprise who's building software. We hope you really, really enjoy it. All right, so we have integrations, which I'm excited about, the early access. We've got stuff for bits. Oh, wait. OK. I didn't think this was going to be ready, but we actually have one more thing we wanted to talk about. This is really for everyone here. This is for everyone here. If you've never tried code review, you should check it out. If you've never used projects before, we hope you like them. But there's one thing I think everyone here has used, and this is just for all of you. It's to get a profile. So the GitHub profile is sometimes a resume. Sometimes it's a view into someone else's world. Sometimes it's a fun way just to get to know someone. And for a long time, it's been pretty stagnant. There's been some tiles. There's been a view of what's happened the past week. You've got a little bit of a look at someone with a giant avatar. But there hasn't been many changes to the profile in a long time. That's going to change. Some of the things that we've added are pinned repositories, your MySpace top 8 on GitHub. We've added bios. Mine is a hamburger. Emailed you activity, things like blocking users. But we wanted to do more. And while we love creating things for workflows, while we love creating things that help you work more efficiently, we also wanted to give you something fun. Something that is useful, something that is part of your workflow, but something that will make you smile, something that you can use today to learn something or maybe reflect on your first commit to a project like GitHub 9 years ago. And so we're rolling out a refreshed GitHub profile, which will let you pin repositories, as always, but it'll also give you a timeline to your entire history on GitHub since the very first day you joined. It'll show you your first pull request, your first contribution to open source, the day you joined an organization. And this isn't just for you. You can see this for everyone. Now you have a much richer view into someone's entire history on GitHub and what they're all about. You can really see what's behind the green squares in more ways than one. And of course, if you have the same permissions as someone, you're in the same private repositories, this isn't just for open source. You can get a full view into everything someone's done. We're already using this all over the place to find out, hey, I know someone created this pull request, I can't find it, go to their profile. Hey, I wonder what so-and-so is working on over the weekend, go to their profile. Hey, I wonder when I actually did join this organization, go to the profile. So we really care, and we're getting a lot better at listening. And so we wanted to thank all of you for your feedback, for being here, for helping us make GitHub great. And one of the ways we're doing that is we're launching community forums. So we've already launched an education forum. It's up and running. There's tons of teachers and people using it to talk about classroom and using GitHub to teach education. We're launching today a platform forum. So if you're interested in being an integrator or working with us, we're going to be there to talk about the future of the API and some of the enhancements. And coming early next year, we're going to launch a general GitHub community forum where you can discuss things with GitHub employees. You can talk to each other about tips and tricks. We'll be able to have awesome two-way communication with you and take your feedback seriously and respond to it. We're really, really excited about it. We're doubling down on embracing the community, on listening, on giving feedback, and to shipping more awesome stuff. So is there, no, this is the real one. OK, so thank you. So there's a lot of really great stuff that's coming out. So we've got code review, first-class code review, projects, brand new profile, integrations early access, 2FA authentication, and platform community forum, all available right now. This stuff is out there. You're already late. You're already not the first users because you're listening to me. So this stuff is all launched immediately. I apologize for that. And then coming early next year, we have SAML on GitHub.com, and we're going to have a general GitHub community forum that we're really, really excited about. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part of the GitHub community. Thank you to all the GitHubbers for all of your hard work, for all of your iteration, for making this stuff happen. We really love you. We care about people, and we care about tools, and we think the best way to do that is by action. And so we're shipping a lot of great stuff today, and you can expect to see a lot more great stuff get shipped in the future, not just from GitHub the company, but from GitHub the community. And so enjoy the next 2 days, and let's all build the future of software together. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.